Hello again to everyone that joined the meeting today. We're launching the self-investigation program, which is a program that we have designed with a lot of love to help journalists deal with stress in new ways. So it's a free online program to help journalists with stress management and also with digital overload. So welcome everyone. This is a project that Kim and I started a few months ago because of the pandemic. We saw a great need in journalism and that journalists needed some help with this issue, and that's what got us together to do this program. And we are now doing it in partnership with the International Center for Journalists, with Open News, with the Online News Association, and with the support of Stars for Media, which is a project co-funded by the European Union. So thank you so much to all those partners and sponsors that helped make this happen. Hopefully this is a great resource for you, and hopefully we can convey all the ideas and new skills that we want to convey to you so that you find new ways to deal with stress, which is key in this time and during the difficult times we're living in. Let me introduce myself. I'm Mar Cabra. I'm a Spanish journalist, although most of my career I've developed it internationally, working for the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. I used to work there as a data editor, and I was part of the Pulitzer Prize winning team for the Panama Papers, which was this investigation that we published in 2016, exposing how the offshore world works, how tax havens work, and how they increase the inequality in our world. And we had a groundbreaking impact in the world, and we also won the Pulitzer Prize. I was a very happy person, supposedly. So on the outside, it looked like I was a very successful person. I had a great team, was working for one of the best teams in the world, best organizations in the world, working with hundreds of journalists around the world, and even got the Pulitzer Prize. And at the same time, I was very unhappy inside. And after a year or so after publishing the Panama Papers, I burnt out, and I saw no other option than quitting my job to find what made me happy. And when I say goodbye to my colleagues, in my email to the ICIJ crew, I said I was going to start a self-investigation. And that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years. And right now, we want to bring some of these techniques that I've been exploring with the help of Kim, because she was my personal development coach, to you guys for these circumstances. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going to be happening today and do some breaking news. Since we are a crew of journalists, let me break it to you. This is not going to be your typical webinar. We want this to be experiential. We want this to be in it with us and experiment a few things with us. So don't expect to just sit back and relax and just listen to what we say. We want to do things with you and expect this to be participatory. And we want to ask you to trust us and do as much as you feel comfortable with, but just go with the flow. We want to encourage you to go with the flow and see what happens, and do some of the exercises that we're going to be doing throughout these 90 minutes. We're going to be here until 11:30 Eastern time in the US, or 5:30 in Central Europe, or whatever that time is wherever you are, because we have journalists from all the continents in the world that signed up, from countries as diverse as the US, but also Peru, Ghana, Iraq, and Bangladesh. So welcome to all of you. I want to tell you one more thing about this special webinar that we're holding today. Is we don't want this to be one more meeting where you get Zoom fatigue, where you get tired of just one more video conference. So here are a few tips to make this less exhausting. First up, we don't expect you to be, looking at the camera and looking at us all the time. Look wherever you feel you want to look at. And if you want to move your eyes away and just relax for a second, that would be okay. If you want to just like look down, that's fine. Just try to be as relaxed as possible. Also, we recommend that you have Zoom set up for speaker view, which means that you only see the speakers on the screen. And that will be less fatiguing for your eyes and for your brain, because brain is set to work with movement. And if you see a lot of little faces on the screen, then you might get more fatigued. And also, it's great to see that some of you are already putting things on the chat. Feel free to do so if that's what you feel you need, and especially if you have any technical problems. But if not, we want to ask you to hold off from putting anything in the chat and just concentrate on this webinar. Try to be here with us present. For that, also important that we recommend that you turn your devices away, and if possible, I know this is difficult for journalists, but if possible, turn off email for the duration of this webinar. This webinar is for you. We want you to have the best experience, and the more distractions you have, the less present you'll be able to be with us. One last logistical thing, as I said at the beginning, we are recording this session for those of you that signed up and weren't able to join us. We're also streaming this on Facebook Live, but don't worry, only the people appearing on the screen through voice and video will be recorded. So if you have your camera on, you won't be recorded, just the speakers, okay? And that's why we really encourage you to have a camera on if you can, and then in the Q&A, raise your voice if you have any questions, because we wanted this to be a meeting and not a webinar, because we want this to be experiential. Having said all this, I think that it's time to introduce you my partner in crime, Kim Brees. She helped me a lot through my recovery of burnout, and I'm so happy to be doing this program with her. So welcome, Kim.
Thanks, Mar. Welcome, everyone. I won't say too much about myself, except to say that the most important thing I've learned in my life, and I've been alive for 54 years now, is that we only get one body. And our body takes us through life. It is your body that allows you to do everything that you're able to do, that allows you to feel everything you're able to feel every second of the day, from the minute you're born till the minute you die, and it's the only body we ever get. So it's worth learning to listen to it, and that's what we're going to explore today. And worth understanding how our body works, and also trying to help it get along life a little bit easier. And the body is not just the physical body, that includes the mind and our emotions. And the other thing that really struck me is it's not for nothing that we're called human beings rather than human doings. So what does that mean? So I'd like to, before we get into the heart of the matter, take you through a little exercise that is a practice that I do every day that helps me be more present, more connected with myself, more connected to those I'm speaking with, and to be more open and a little bit more at ease in my body. And we're going to be doing this practice throughout the hour and a half. I'm going to ring a bell. So if you're willing to, try something out, no one will see you. Don't worry. You're in your own home. I'd really encourage you to go along. So I'm going to ring a bell and guide you through 2-minute little exercise that I call a centering practice. Yeah? Is everybody in or willing to be in? I see a few nods. Super. So here's the bell. I hope you can hear it. You'll be hearing it throughout the meeting. And I'd like to invite you, if it feels okay, to close your eyes for a second. Just bring your attention inward. And I'd like to invite you to bring your attention down to your feet. So feel your feet on the floor. And bring your attention to your buttocks, your butt. And sense whatever your butt is sitting on. This is the base of the body. This is your support, your stability. And from there, I'd like to invite everyone to lengthen your spine. So imagine someone's pulling the crown of your head upward. Yeah, long spine, a felt sense of dignity. But also invite some ease into your body. So I'd like to invite everyone to just relax the muscles of their face. Let those shoulders drop even just a little bit. Allow the chest and belly to let go a little bit. The arms and hands are resting. So we're lifted up, but we're also settled and at ease. So we're going to do this a few times, breathing in, lifting up, and exhaling, settling down, settling down. Once again, breathing in and lifting, and exhaling and settling. Do this twice for yourself in your own rhythm. Great. And from there, I'd like to invite you to bring your attention to the center of your chest. And this might sound odd, but imagine that you have a light bulb right there in the center of your chest. And imagine turning that light bulb on and allow the light to shine in front of you, behind you, and all around. So you're sitting, lifted, settled, and allowing the light to expand your awareness, opening up your field of awareness all around. And take a moment to sense if this shifted anything inside. Your mood, how your body feels. Maybe it didn't, maybe it did. It's all okay. And take a moment to ask yourself, what brought me here? What's important for me? And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And thank you for going along with this centering practice.
And right now you're seeing on the screen what just happened, while we all were breathing together. We were breathing together for just a few minutes. And at the same time, while we were calming down and our nervous system was calming down, this is what happened on the internet. These are stats from 2019, but valid today. 4.5 million videos were being watched as we were breathing together. 3.8 million requests on Google. 41.6 million messages sent on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. 188 million emails were sent in just 1 minute. And this is the world we're living in today, where we're bombarded with information, and especially all of us, because we're journalists, and we have to convey what's happening in the world to people in a succinct way. And that is the challenge that we face as journalists, especially, is how do we have balance with ourselves while the world is bombarding us with stimulus. And this is why throughout this webinar and throughout the following activities we'll do throughout this month, we're going to talk a lot about stress. And at the same time, we're going to talk about digital overload, because technology is one of the main stressors that we have right now. I was telling you at the beginning of the webinar, what brought us here, Kim and I, was basically we really wanted to help journalists during this difficult time we're living in during the pandemic and all the other issues that are happening. We're seeing a lot of stress. And the program we've designed is trying to cater to busy journalists and don't have much time, and at the same time, people that can don't normally save time for themselves, which is what we journalists tend to do. And that's why we designed this webinar today to show you some techniques to deal with stress in a different way. And that's what you'll get today in the webinar. And we'll have time for questions. We'll have time for some theory. We'll have time for some practice throughout the 90 minutes. Even so, we'll have time for some self-reflection time. And the key of this program is that we didn't want this just to be one other webinar where some people just talk and then you go back home or you go back to your work and then poof, reality just, takes you down again. Like playing any new sport or learning any new skill, practice is key. So that's why we're teaching you some new moves today. Like, we were teaching you sport, and then we want to practice with you. We want to be your excuse to take time for yourself. And we're going to be meeting for 30 minutes every Tuesday and Thursday for the rest of July in the times that you're seeing on screen. And those 30-minute meetups will be opportunities to practice some of the exercises that we're going to teach you today. And also we'll have some time to share how we're feeling and feel the power of the community. It was great to see so many people signing up today. And I think that we are a great group that can support each other from different corners of the world. So this is what we'll be doing in the meetups. We'll talk more about them later, but that is what's key about this program. It's the combination of the two. And then one more thing, which is we want to offer you the opportunity to continue your self-investigation by deepening on investigating on yourself with the help of a personal development coach. And we'll explain a little bit more about that later in the webinar because there are a few opportunities available for you. But why are we here? We're here because during the pandemic, we were hearing a lot of commonalities between journalists from different places of the world. And some of these may resonate with you. We were hearing things like, I'm a journalist, but now because of the pandemic and the confinement, I have to be a teacher and a parent, and I have to do all these things on top of like my job, which is already stressful. And on top of that, everything has to be under one roof because now I'm doing remote work. So that has been adding a lot of stress on journalists during the pandemic. We were also hearing journalists saying, I'm on all the time and I find it hard setting boundaries. This is true for some journalists. This has always been true, but more true now during the COVID-19 circumstances we're living in. And we're also hearing some journalists saying that technology makes it very hard to disconnect from work because we're available all the time through our devices, through email or WhatsApp or other messaging apps like Slack. Some other things we were hearing a lot of people being anxious, and this has been reported in pretty much every single report and survey that has been done by different media organizations and journalism organizations. Many journalists are feeling more anxious than usual and having extra pains and aches in the body, having difficulties with sleep. Those are signs related to stress. And we were also hearing some people being very worried about their jobs because if journalism was in crisis before all of this, it is in even more crisis now. And those are the issues that brought us together to create this program for you, because all of these issues are creating more stress than ever on journalists. And we are frontline responders to the pandemic and frontline responders to the crisis and other issues that are happening in different parts of the world, like in the US. And we also need to take care of ourselves because there's no work if there's no healthy person to do the work. And that's why we're here today. It is very important for us to tell you that you're not alone, that's why we're here. We're all in this together. Kim and I have suffered and are suffering sometimes stress, as you might be feeling right now or through these weeks. And this is why this program is about gathering together twice a week if you can, once a week if you can, join whenever you can, to practice together and keep developing these skills to be more calm. With this, I think, Kim, I don't know if you want to ring the bell.
I'm going to ring the bell. So I'd like to invite everyone to take a pause. You can close your eyes if you like. And this pause is to help yourself reorganize your body and your energy, to be more present, to allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling right now. You came here for a reason. It's okay. You're off the hook. Give yourself permission. So feeling your feet on the ground, buttocks on the chair. Lengthen your spine upward as if the crown of the head was being pulled upward. Yeah, beautiful, everyone. Breathing in, lifting up, and exhaling, allowing your muscles, your bones to settle, settle, settle. Doing that a few times for yourself. This is the centering practice, feeling the base of your body, lifting your spine, breathing in, lifting, breathing out, settling, settling. And then taking a moment to bring your attention to that center of your chest. And if the image of the light bulb helps you, imagine there's a light bulb there, turn it on, shine it out in all directions. If that doesn't work for you, maybe it's like opening a door. Allowing your field of awareness to open up, sitting here, long, settled, and open. And just notice if anything has shifted by taking this 2-minute pause, conscious centering pause. When you're ready, open your eyes and we'll continue. Thanks for going along, everyone. So, there are 4 key things, capacities, skills that help in stress management. And you guys are all lucky because all of those skills are what you're already practicing as journalists. So you're 5 steps ahead of the rest of the universe that's not a journalist. So one is, you know, when you're doing a story, you're gathering facts, right? You want to know everything about the issue. You're practicing something. What are you practicing? Well, you're practicing all the journalistic skills that you need to continuously develop. You're learning new skills in order to do your job effectively. Very important, 2 things that support you in your work. If you're not curious, if you're not open-minded, what kind of journalist are you? Right? Very key attitudes, mindset. And the last is motivation. Journalism is not an easy job. I know, I've worked with many journalists in my life. So reminding yourself, why did I choose to become a journalist in the first place, is what helps you get through. I see some people laughing. Maybe you've lost touch with that, or maybe people do remember and it brings excitement. Either way, we can get cynical sometimes. So all these 4 skills are exactly what you're going to bring into your stress management. The only difference is you're going to be investigating yourself. So what is gathering the facts about yourself? What do I mean by that? This is what we call self-awareness. If you don't know what you're doing, you won't know what to change. So one of the key skills to develop is to teach yourself to observe in real time what's happening in your body, when you're getting stressed out, to observe and notice what kind of thoughts are coming up as you're thinking. You know, you might be having thoughts right now while you're listening to me, or emotions like of impatience or cynicism or whatever. So a key self-awareness tool is becoming aware in real time by teaching yourself to notice what I call the life inside of you. So gathering the facts about yourself. And why is that so important? It's so important because half of our waking hours, we are on automatic pilot. That means that we're engaged, we're doing things that are being stimulated by reactions that we have that we're not even conscious about. Half of our waking hours, we are not directly choosing how we want to be, how we might really want to react to our surroundings. That's pretty, I find that statistic pretty shocking, actually, when I first heard it. So what I'm talking about are behaviors that don't serve you, right? So like when a boss or a colleague says, you're already overwhelmed and says, you know, I need you to do something right away. What's your tendency? To say yes right away? That's been mine for a long, long time. Maybe your tendency is immediately to say no. And guess what? You might be missing out on an opportunity. Maybe your way of reacting is to get really pissed off at people and angry and emotional. These are automatic reactions. It's worth learning to notice in real time when those are coming up, especially if they don't serve you. So you might come to a place of choice and do something different. Now, the next skill we talked about was practice, journalism skills, but in the self-management, self-reduction world, what's a practice? A practice is what you do repeatedly, right? And we're practicing things all the time. So some of us practice waking up in the morning and looking at our iPhone or our iPad immediately. That's a practice. Or immediately taking a cup of coffee. That's a practice. Or, yeah, what might, I'll leave it at that. And we become what we practice. Another practice is maybe, you know, when you get stressed out, you lift your shoulders. Many people do that. So many of us have been practicing this our whole lives, maybe, or since we were 4 years old. So we need to notice what we're practicing and what's helpful and not helpful, but we also need something to do that a different practice, right? Learning something new. So this centering practice, for example, so simple, is something that can teach you if you're a doer and you feel tired, but you keep going, or those thoughts tell you, no, 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 gotta do it now, gotta do it now. Taking a pause, a conscious pause, you disrupt that automatic reaction, and you come to a place of choice, perhaps. The other thing is attitude. Attitude is key. Being curious about yourself. You remember the first time you fell in love with someone? You couldn't know enough about that person. You wanted to know everything. Same thing with yourself. Getting intimate, curious, self-compassionate. And why is self-compassion? You know, when I first, compassion, I was a little cynical about that word. There was a study done that soldiers in Iraq, same group of soldiers in Iraq, who went through horrible situations, those who had and practiced more self-compassion for whatever reason were less likely to suffer post-traumatic stress disorder than the soldiers who had no or little self-compassion. There is a direct link between self-compassion and physical, mental, and emotional health. So becoming friendly and developing a friendly relationship with your body. And last but not least, you're not going to succeed in this endeavor unless you're motivated. So deciding for yourself, why is it worth it to me to practice for the next month if you're going to come along on the journey on your own or with us? Why is it? What is really important to me that I'd like to turn around? Because it's not only helpful to me, but helpful to what I do in the world, and also will be helpful in all of my relationships. So on that note, let's take a moment to center and just digest what you've just heard. Digesting, taking a moment to digest information is really important. So if you'd like, close your eyes. You can do it any way you like now. You're getting the hang of it. Bring your attention down to your feet. You can practice this with your eyes open too. It's really a good skill, actually. Sense your feet, sense your buttocks on the chair, lifting the spine upward, long and elegant, breathing in, lifting up, exhaling, letting go, settling. Doing that a few times for yourselves, lifting up, crown of the head pulling upward, exhaling, letting go. Bring your attention to the middle of your chest. Shine that light bulb or open that door. Sitting here, a little more present, a little bit more at ease, a little bit more open, a little more connected. Thank you. So, let's talk about stress. What is stress? There are two things, stressors and stress. So the stressors are the things that cause us stress. And stress is what our body, our mind, and our emotions do when we perceive a situation as challenging or beyond our capacity. So I'm going to repeat that because it's really, really important. This is what our bodies, our minds, and our emotions unconsciously do when we have decided that this situation is not okay. What's happening is not okay for whatever reason. And why I talked about the body in my introduction is the first reactions that occur, but we don't notice it most of the time because our ability to feel and sense our bodies, most of us have never learned that, is in the body. So initial stress reactions happen in the body. I'm sure everyone has felt themselves getting hot, 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 or heart beating fast maybe, or maybe your hands getting cold or your feet getting cold. These are all kinds of stress reactions. And that, or tense in our body, that is a key. Most of us, something gets tense. And this has an effect on how we think and our emotions, how we feel. So if it's okay, let's do a quick little experiment so you can experience this for yourselves. So I encourage everyone to go along. It's really simple. So I'd like to invite everyone to lift their shoulders up, and you might want to exaggerate, but lift your shoulders up and pull your belly in. And this might feel really uncomfortable. That's the idea. Many of us, when we're stressed out, lift our shoulders. And I'd like you to stay this way and notice, how's your face right now? Or your jaw? How does it feel right now? Notice if you're feeling connected to yourself or to the space around you, or disconnected. Imagine you have to interview someone. And yes, we're exaggerating now, but your shoulders are up. Imagine you have to interview someone with stress in your body. How's that going to be? How's that going to go, do you think? I'd like everyone to now lower the shoulders, lower the shoulders, lower the shoulders. Take a moment, sense the difference in your body by just lowering the shoulders, and imagine interviewing someone right now. How might your mood be different? Would you maybe be more connected to that person or not? How do you think you'd conduct that interview? It's a little exaggerated, but this is a simple, I hope you all could sense a little bit of the difference, yeah? So that's how this dance occurs between the body, the mind, and emotions. Just tension somewhere is going to affect how we think and affect how we feel emotionally. Now, what happens is when we get tense like that, our nervous system, one part of our nervous system, goes into accelerator mode. It's like you're in a car and you put your foot on the gas pedal. Go, 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 go. I'm sure many of you have heard fight, flight, that fight, flight reaction. Yeah. You can also get a freeze reaction when you're in a stress reaction. But that part of our nervous system goes into accelerator mode. And this is exactly what happens in the animal world. And in fact, our bodies and our minds are very much linked to our ancestors and where we come from and the animal world. And animals, the biggest threat was getting eaten up. And the good news for them is it either happened in a few minutes or it didn't. So the stress was limited. It was in a limited time, and then you weren't eaten. Okay, you could relax. But in the human world, the stressors are multiple, 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 multiple. And many of us have never learned how to disrupt so that we can bring our bodies back to a place of a little more ease and a little more calm so we can recuperate. So there's nothing wrong with stress. In fact, many of us pay good money for stress. Those who go to the carnival and like rides or bungee jumping or, climb Mount Everest. Stress got Mar and me to create everything we needed to create in a short period of time. So it helps with getting deadlines done, right? But too much for too long is problematic. It actually can help us get sick. And that's because when there's too much stress too long, even when there's a little stress, it compromises our immune system. That's why so many complaints that we go to the doctor for are related to stress. They're not due to stress, but they're effects of stress on our immune system. Our organs don't function optimally anymore because the blood is flowing away from our vital organs to the muscles we need to run for our lives. So our physiology is deeply, deeply affected. So it's worth learning, and we're really lucky because the way our body is designed allows us, we have the capacity, because our body has the capacity to teach ourselves to come back to a place of balance. So I'm going to bring us through a little bit of a longer 10-minute exercise before we go back to Mar and we go into some explanations about digital overload. So if you're willing, I'd like to invite you to do another practice, and all of these will be available on our website for you after this meeting. So I'm going to and let this sound be the sound that invites you to take a pause. And by the way, during this 10-minute pause, you don't have to empty your mind. This is not the idea. You don't even have to relax. You just have to listen to my words and bring your attention inward. That's it. And when your attention drifts to thoughts, it's totally okay. That's what the mind does. And you just come back. You come back to where I'm guiding you to. So I'd like to invite you, if it feels okay, to close your eyes. And if that feels really uncomfortable, you can keep your eyes open. Just let them rest in a spot, soft gaze. And take a moment to turn your attention inward and to settle in and to settle down. And to notice, how am I feeling right now? And it's all okay. Be okay with whatever you're experiencing right now, because that's what it is. And take a moment to bring your attention to your head and your face. We're going to just bring our attention lightly to different parts of our body, just checking in. So we'll start with the face. And from there, light attention, shifting your attention down to the shoulders, the left, the right shoulder. And from there, melting the attention downward to the chest and the belly, being okay with whatever you sense. And if you sense nothing at all, that's totally okay too. Sense nothing. And from there, shifting your attention to the left arm and hand and the right arm and hand. And from there, shifting your attention to your hips. Sense your hips and your buttocks on the chair, whatever you're sitting on. Melting the attention further downward to your legs, maybe saying hello to your legs for the first time. Not imagining so much, but feeling, sensing. Then all the way down to your feet. And now opening up your attention to your whole body. And take a moment to notice if there's a spot in your body that's calling for your attention because it feels a little tight, feels a little tense. And just bring your attention there. Be kind. It's calling for your attention. Give it some space. Maybe send it some breath. Allow it to be just a little bit. You don't have to like it, but it's there. And from there, I'd like to invite you to bring your attention to your breath. Maybe noticing your breath for the first time today. Sensing the rhythm of your breath, no need to change anything. This is a really important gauge about where you're at today. Is it a light breath, a heavy breath, a nervous breath, whatever, it's fine. Noticing the in, noticing the out. Noticing the in, noticing the out. And if your attention wanders, no worries. It's a function of the mind. You notice, you bring it back to the breath, this anchor point we can always come back to, which naturally regulates our nervous system. We don't even have to change the breath if we don't want to, just noticing the in and the out. Now, if you'd like, you can deepen your breath a little bit, using a little bit more of the capacity of this amazing tool we have. So breathing in a little bit more and exhaling maybe a little bit longer, if that feels comfortable for you. Trying that a few times for yourself. No need to try too hard. Breathing in a little bit more deeply and exhaling and letting go, letting go, letting go a little bit longer. Doing that for a minute more for yourself, with yourself. Offering attention to the in, to the out. Sending a signal to yourself that it's okay. And before we wrap this up, just making a mental note to yourself. What you experienced and whether anything of this was helpful to you in any way, small or big. Just making a mental note, noticing, acknowledging. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And thank you, everyone, for going along with this. As I say in very impolite English, my mother would be very upset with me. This ain't no chicken shit. Maybe I should say, what I mean is, it takes courage to do this kind of stuff. Thanks.
Thanks for clarifying for those foreign speakers like me on the call. And I've learned, this expression today, so thank you. We've been focusing our attention in this practice that Kim shared with us. We've been learning to bring our attention back to us. And that's very helpful in today's world because technology is a great distractor and it's a great stressor. So wanted to tell you a little bit more about technology because when I stopped after burning out, I basically realized that my attention was drifting away because of technology, even though I didn't need it, because for a few months I was not working. And I was still connected to email. I was still connected to WhatsApp. I was still looking at my phone all the time. And that was kind of like part of my, my previous life as a journalist. As a very busy journalist, as you can imagine, with the Panama Papers investigation. And I started reading a little bit about technology and about how technology affects us. And what I realized is that technology is really affecting our body and brain more than at least I thought of. And some of you may know, but I don't know if you've ever heard of this term called email apnea or screen apnea. And screen apnea is something that tends to happen to most of us while we are on screens, which is that we stop breathing or start breathing very shallow while we are on screen or while we're on email. So that has actually an immediate effect on our nervous system, and it has an immediate effect, not immediate, but like long-term, it has an effect on our immune system. And just think of how many hours you dedicate to email. And the effects that can have if you stop breathing and you don't notice. I encourage you to, from now on for the next days, realize, bring attention to those moments where you're checking your email and see, am I breathing? To see if that happens to you. It's actually affecting our brain, also technology, in ways that has not, we haven't had a time like this in history, where we have so much stimulus for so long, and unprompted, we get all these stimulus and all these notifications popping at us. And that is actually changing the way our brains are operating, because our brains are not designed for so much stimulus so fast. And there are scientists that are studying the effects on the brain, but it's actually, they've never seen some parts of the brain like lighting up as fast as what was happening right now due to technology. So I encourage you from now on to think about the effect technology and the use of technology has on your brain and body. One little tip I can give you is that you take times off technology. I actually put my phone on airplane mode before going to sleep. And I also try to have times off technology. Like some people do digital Sabbaths, so whole Saturday without technology. If that's something you cannot afford, think whether you can turn off your computer or your phone for a few hours a week. And that it's really beneficial. The other thing that I don't know if you know is that you have less control than you think on your use of technology. I started realizing, when I was working with the Panama Papers and working 16-hour days, like with people from all over the world connecting with me, I would still be very tired, but go into bed and do as this little kitten was doing. I had to show a GIF. Basically, very tired, but still like an hour in my bed on Facebook. And an hour would just poof, disappear. And I felt guilty and stupid and like, why am I doing this? And especially the day after, when I was super tired because I had slept less than I should have. I was like, why did I spend that hour on Facebook, which is not, what I really wanted to do? And I felt stupid. But the reality is that some of you may know technology is actually designed to grab our attention, because we are in the attention economy. And basically all this technology and all this design is done in a way that to have directly, know that actually this movement, I don't know if you're hearing me, but this movement is actually very similar to a slot machine, a similar movement to a slot machine. It's designed to keep us addicted to the phone or hooked into the phone as much as possible. There are also, as you know, there are algorithms trying to keep us engaged. We use some of them in journalism. And, colors are also a great way to keep us engaged. And that's why the bubbles in WhatsApp or on Facebook, the notification bubbles are red to keep our attention engaged. So the practices that we are learning today and that we'll learn in the meetups are going to help us have a little bit more time to realize what's going on and how this technology is trying to grab our attention and steal this attention from us. And maybe think, do I really want to do this right now? Do I really want to check email right now? When my hand goes into the phone, I kind of like pause and say, okay, do I really want to check WhatsApp right now? So this is how I've been using the practices that Kim is sharing with us today to keep my relationship with technology a healthier relationship. And I have to say, I wanted to do a full disclosure here. I'm not perfect, even though I've been like relating to technology in a different way for the past 2.5 years. I think that I still have a lot to do. And time management app on my iPhone, on other phones, really helps me with that. I don't know if you might not be seeing my screen for a second. Let me just pull it up to see if you can see it again. But I was going to show you in a full transparency exercise. I wanted to show you my time management of the past 7 days. And let's see if that loads, because for some reason it's not loading. Just give me 1 second. And I wanted to show you what's happening, because it's not loading, but let me tell you that if I showed you, were able to show you my time on social media or on my phone over the past week, you'll be able to see that I've spent 19 hours on the past week on my, WhatsApp. And that means that I've spent basically an average of 3 hours per day on WhatsApp on my phone. And I'm able to see that because I'm actually looking at that app. And I still have a long way to go. If I was able to show you a thing on the screen, you'll be able to also see that I also spend some time meditating on the app that I have, meditating app that I have. So that gave me some like courage of like how I'm improving as I go along. But I encourage you to not only give yourself, invoke the power of the pause, to have those questions and think, do I really want to do this right now? But also I encourage you to use technology to help you be more aware of your use of technology. And having said that, I think it's actually a very good time to go into Q&A and hear from you what are, the questions you may have from everything. But before then, we cannot hear you, Kim, because you're muted. But before then, Kim is reminding me that before question and answer,
take a second, and I'd like you to center in your own way. I'll ring the bell in 2 minutes. Take your own conscious pause. See what that means for you, what that feels like for you, and what's helpful to you. Doesn't have to feel comfortable. Just pausing, noticing. Perhaps using the breath, noticing the breath. As a place to come home to. When you're ready, open your eyes. Well done, everyone.
thank you, Kim. Thanks for reminding me to stop. And I don't know if you can hear me. My connection is being a bit unstable. I think my connection wants a break too. And we are ready to take some questions and answers from you before we move into some more practices. But we are conscious that you've been hearing a lot of things, a lot of new things, practicing a lot of things too, probably some new things, and wanted to see whether you had any questions on what we've said, or whether you want to share your experience. And just a reminder that we're only taking questions from those in the Zoom meeting and not on Facebook Live. So if you're watching us on Facebook Live, then we're sorry, we cannot accommodate your questions. And those in the Zoom meeting, if you want to ask any question, you can unmute yourself and voice it. Just know that if you have the camera on, it will be recorded with your face. If you have microphone, your voice will be recorded. And also, if you don't want to appear, you can just also type the question. This is the moment to go into the chat and type in the questions that you may have, and I'll voice them for you and see if and answer them. So we'll do both. And I want to give like 10 seconds to see if anybody wants to unmute themselves, because we already have a question in the chat. But just quickly to see if anybody wants to voice any questions. And if not, we'll go to a question in the chat. So while some of you think of your questions, we already have a question in the chat. Basically, we have this question that says, what advice do you have for letting others, like coworkers or your boss, know that you're setting better boundaries with technology, especially if they expect you to be on all the time. Kim, would you like to say anything about that?
You're passing the buck, Mar. That's what we say in English. You know, I sympathize with this. And there's no easy answer. I'm sorry to answer it like this. I guess the only thing I can offer is if you are choosing to take this path of living and working a little more sanely, more of the human being than a human doing, maybe you can start encouraging from bottom up, perhaps, the start of a new culture with your colleagues. And I know it has to come from bottom down often, but maybe you can have a little bit of influence, and maybe more influence than you think, in starting to develop a different culture in your office. As we say, what we bring to the table is contagious. So if you're bringing to the table a more calmer, different working way of working, perhaps that can truly inspire others if you're willing to take that up. That's the most wisdom I can offer on this one.
I want to share my experience with email in the past years. When I stopped, like I left my job at ICIJ, I put an auto reply telling people that I was not checking email, that I was just checking it like once in a while, and giving everyone my WhatsApp message, like my WhatsApp number, and telling them, if it's urgent, just WhatsApp me. And I have to say, in the past, 2.5 years, like only like 2 dozen people have like WhatsApp me with urgent things, which made me realize, well, maybe things are not as urgent as we think. Of course, my experiences might be a bit different than some of you because I was not working in a newsroom. But I think that sometimes we think that things are urgent when they're not. So what I would say is, first, I want to say that in my auto reply, I actually tell people why I do this. So I tell them the reason why I don't check email all the time is because I want to control my time, and I don't want email to be the controller of my time. So that way I start disseminating, like teaching others, or at least I hope that that resonates with others. So that links to what Kim is saying. But also I would say, I would encourage you to have a honest conversation with your team and your bosses about, what are the limits and what boundaries you want to bring regards to the use of technology. I understand that those of us that are working on breaking news, might have to be on all the time. I'm not sure if that's true. I would even challenge that statement, but I think that, it is very important to have that conversation. I recently talked to a colleague who was telling me that she basically, was on all the time, and now that she's working remote, she like even took less like breaks to go to the toilet than normal because she had to ask for it. And she, actually had that conversation with her, boss about it, about how she was feeling about it. And I think that we need to have more of those conversations in journalism about, what it means to have boundaries around the use of technology. And if you are a leader of a team, try to talk about those things with your team and see what are the limitations. I have to tell you, it has an effect on stress. It has an effect on the brain. It has an effect on the body. The science is there. So it is very urgent that we start like changing our ways. And of course, some ways are actually at a managerial level. So that also, the change also has to happen there. But try to see what boundaries you can set and communicate those with others. That would be my advice. And for those, like I see some questions in the chat also, like about breaking news and how to do this on breaking news. It's very difficult for journalists, but if you're covering breaking news and you need your attention on that matter all the time, then, you know, you also deserve time off. So try to think, what is the time off you can take to yourself, so that you can be a better worker. I think it can also be argued in terms of efficiency. So we have some other questions. Yes, Kim?
Yeah, I'd like to take a few or answer a few. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So one person brought up, and I think many of you probably are struggling with this, was, you know, how to focus at home when you're working from home. Some people are used to that, but some people are not. And yeah, how do I separate all of these things or create space for myself? I think it's very important. One of the key things I can say is communicate, communicate, communicate. And what I mean is, first stop for a moment and figure out for yourself, what do I need? What do I need? And communicate that and ask the people you live with to help, that you need their support to carve out space or to be undisrupted at a certain point. I think without that, it's virtually impossible. I don't know if Mar, you have something to add on this one.
Yeah, I think that to me, something that comes to me is that you can manage, you know, your, like the notifications that you get, to try to minimize them to the minimum. So I would say I would encourage you to spend some time deciding what requires immediate notification and what not. You know, I think that also very helpful for journalists if you can have two phones where it's like work, you know, and personal, and divide that actually really helps, especially if you use like chatting apps like WhatsApp. And what I would say is something that has been very helpful for me is try to have blocks of time where I check things, like, you know, I check email, you know, at this time of the day or throughout different times of the day, and then I close email. And if it's urgent, you know, and I've worked with people that needed urgent things, you know, use WhatsApp, for example, or call me, you know. And I have, for example, also notifications off on WhatsApp, but I have my phone on and they can just call, you know. So try to see what system works for you so that you can have your attention focused on the task as much as possible, and not like, you know, being distracted all the time by an email or WhatsApp or, you know, a tweet. You know, I think that, you know, that's something, depends on the person, but something that I encourage you to think about. Kim, did you have any other question that you saw, or?
Yeah, what I'd like to, somebody said, you know, a weekend doesn't feel like enough to recover. So if that's true for you, that might mean that you're, and we'll come to this, you know, on overdrive. And so your body, and I know about this, I've been through this, that my body didn't know how to relax anymore. And so the question might be, what are you doing in the weekend to try to invite your body and your mind and your emotions to come to a place of more balance? And there are two key things. One is doing activities, it sounds stupid, but that make you feel good. That make you feel good, whatever that means. And the other is, and spending time, put them in your agenda. And you can do them with other people too. And I know we're limited in the lockdown and so, but maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's sitting on a windowsill looking at the tree outside. And the other thing is get out of your head and into your body. And what I mean is sensing, sensation. So listening to music, touch. People said, I'm socially isolated. Man, you know, I need that contact. I suffered from that too. I live alone. It was really tough, but the sensation of touch, even if it's just hugging myself, looking at nature, if you can take a walk, being in nature, getting your hands in the dirt. This is what gets you out of your head and sensing and feeling. I cannot say enough about how important that is to come home to ourselves and to send the signals that, you know, it's okay. And if you're really on overdrive, maybe you need some support. You might consider a coaching session with me or my colleague Robin, if you really feel like it's too much, and you don't know anymore.
And we're about to do another exercise that will help you realize how your energy is. Because what happened to me, you know, when I burned out is I did not see it coming. And that normally happens to people that burn out. And, you know, basically it's because you're, you know, I was not aware of my energy levels. So actually, I think that this is a good moment then to actually get another exercise that can help us be aware of when we're reaching our limit of, like, you know, overload or overdrive, and what can we do about it. Kim?
Yeah, thanks, Mar. And by the way, I see some great suggestions in the chat: gardening, knitting, going out twice a day, at least for 5 minutes. So you all have something, and we'll come back to this because you all have your own practices, I'm sure, that make you feel good. It may not feel like enough right now, or you may have to do new things, new practices, right? So what I'd like to do is talk about stress again, and Mar, if you can bring the slide up. So, you know, Mar was talking, digital devices have become practically an extension of ourselves, practically an extension of our bodies. And guess what? I bet you most of you do everything in your capacity to make sure that those digital devices, the batteries don't go dead, right? You probably do your best to make sure it stays full or it gets reloaded. But what about when your battery starts getting low? How do you treat your inner battery? So I wanted to give you a simple way of visualizing stress. So if you look at the battery, there's the green, yeah? When you're in green, you're feeling good. You're feeling kind of in balance, healthy, good. When you get to yellow, this is the beginning of feeling like you're getting strained. Beginning of getting overworked. This is where it's important to teach yourself to notice, okay, when am I in the yellow? Am I in the yellow? Okay, time to take a pause, even if it's for 2 minutes, to bring me back to a little bit of green, if I can. And you probably can, but you've convinced yourself there's no time. That mind of ours, that fear and anxiety of ours, keeps us stuck sometimes from making the good choices. And then there's the purple. You see over the edge, you're already overstrained on overdrive. That's when it starts getting dangerous for your health, your mental health, your physical health. And burnout is really when your battery is empty. You literally cannot do anything anymore. So we're going to focus right now on green and yellow because we don't want to get into purple. So what I'd like to do is first, you know, what's green? What does green feel like? So Mar, I'd like to ask you, how do you feel when you're in green? And then you'll all get an opportunity to feel and discover your green. But first, Mar, what do you feel? How are you when you're in green?
So when I'm green, I feel relaxed. I feel like open. I feel my shoulders are down. I feel like my chest is open. I feel happy. I tend to smile a lot and excited about what's going on.
Yeah, thanks. So maybe some of you recognize that, but in general, physically, yeah, you're more at ease in your body. The breath is normally lower and fuller. Believe it or not, for some of us, our back is straighter. So it's not for nothing that we're doing this lift exercise in the centering. It changes our mood. Mentally, we're more positive, we're more creative, we can do more problem solving. Mar said it herself, I feel more happy, I feel more stable, her shoulders drop. And if I were playing a film, right, if we were filming people in their green, a lot of people would be a little more social, maybe a little lighter, some people more humorous. So maybe you recognize some of this. So I'd like to take you through an exercise. And if it's okay for you, I'd like to invite you all to stand up and to step to the side. I don't need to see you, it's not important. To stand somewhere where you have a little bit of space and where you can still hear me. And I'd like to invite you to take a moment to imagine, and if you're still sitting down, that's fine, you can do it sitting down, to imagine that you're in green. Imagine that you feel good, that your energy is at a good level. Maybe it helps to imagine something that you do that brings you in green, or somebody that you love or enjoy being with that brings you into green. And just take a moment, this is the self-investigation, to notice how this feels in your body. Is there one thing you notice that shifts in your body that tells you I'm in green? Take a moment. If you can still hold on to that green, how are you thinking? What is your way of thinking when you're in green zone? And if I were filming you, what would I see? If you were with other people, how would you be? Or if you were working and you were in your green and I'm filming you, how would that look like? And how does that feel? Maybe some emotions come up. And lastly, how fast are you moving? What gear are you in when you're in your green? It's all unique to you. So just take a moment to make a mental note of anything you notice that can tell you, I'm in green, physically, mentally, or emotionally. Let that be your marker. Okay, thanks everyone. And this may sound odd, but I always say now brush yourself off because we're going to go into yellow. So brush off the green, even though you might like it, so that you can come in back fresh. So that's green. I hope everybody could notice the felt sense of green. So yellow. So yellow is the beginning of getting a bit strained, a bit overwhelmed. So Mar, how does your yellow feel to you?
So to me, my shoulders are actually a great signal that I'm actually moving into overload. I feel like I sometimes I'm like in my computer and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what happened? So I realized that my shoulders are up. I start feeling like activity here. Sometimes I start feeling like my body's closing a little bit. I start being responding quickly. People like when people call me or like, yeah, so I'm not as calm as in green. So those are some of the signals that I see that make me think, I'm in yellow.
Thanks, Mar. So maybe you recognize some of what Mar described. So typically when you're in yellow, the brain starts working differently. And in one time of my life when I was under very stress, perhaps I was in purple, I thought I had the beginnings of Alzheimer's. I mean it, because I couldn't focus. My mind was so different. My attention span was so different. So you might be more forgetful. You might also be somebody who gets in, only begins to see more problems than possibilities. That's one of my key yellow signs. I worry, a lot of worrying thoughts. Physically, like Mark mentioned, usually there's some part of our body that gets tense. And the funny thing is that until we learn to sense our bodies through this body scan or other methods, sometimes we don't even realize what we're tensing up. But there's tension. Sometimes we experience pressure in the head, which leads to headaches. Headaches, if you have chronic headaches, you might be already a little bit in the purple. Breath, the breath gets higher, usually. And your hands and feet might get cold. And that's because of what I talked about, the blood moving away from extremities to other parts of the bodies. And emotionally, you might get more irritable, short-tempered, maybe more negative, unhappy. And if I were playing a film, just like Mar said, many of us start getting more abrupt and rushing more. So your emails might get shorter, fewer words. You might be much more feeling doubtful, insecure, complaining, sighing. My father used to sigh a lot. That's a signal of stress. Maybe you get less social, more withdrawn, even in these times of where we're already apart from each other, but you don't feel like being in contact with people as much, maybe even on Zoom. So if it's okay for you, I'd like you to take a moment to give yourself the opportunity and permission to investigate a little bit your yellow. So if it's okay, I'd like to invite you to, and by the way, you're going to get slides. They're going to be on our resource page where you'll get all this information. So no worries. So if you're okay, stand up once again, if that's okay for you. And if you're sitting down, you can do this exercise sitting down, whatever you prefer. But standing up is a different experience. This is how we are a lot of time in life. Yes, we sit a lot, but we also stand. And take a moment to think about your day yesterday, and maybe a moment where you got into a place of yellow. So bring that back into your mind. Doesn't have to be the biggest thing, something that you can tolerate right now, something that happened yesterday that brought you into yellow. Take a moment as you think that up, notice what shifts in your body. This is the self-investigation. One marker, physical marker that lets you know, oh, I'm getting into a stress modus here. Notice maybe how you're thinking. What's your way of thinking? If I were filming you and you were in a meeting in your yellow, what would I be seeing? How might you interact with others? Or when you're working and you're in your yellow, what does that look like? It's really good to notice and to know. That will help you remind yourself. And if any emotions come up, so take a moment as we wrap this up just to make a mental note of one thing you noticed that's going to be your signal. I'm in yellow. This can be your reminder to then do something, whatever that might be, to bring you back into a little bit of green. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for going along. Yeah, and shake yourself out if you need to. Get the energy flowing. So, to wrap this up, right, Mar? Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to ring the bell just to take a moment, short moment, to center ourselves as we wrap up this session. So I'd like to invite you to just settle down for a moment. Take a moment just for yourself. Bring your attention inward. Feel your feet on the ground. Sense your buttocks and your hips. Lengthen your spine for a moment. Take a nice deep breath in if you like. Lifting, yes. And exhaling, allowing yourself to settle, letting go a little bit, lifting and settling. And bring your attention to the middle of your chest. Imagining that light bulb, or maybe it's a door opening, and shine it bright. Shine it as far as it can go, or as far as you're able to tolerate, front, back, all sides, opening up. And take a moment to make a note. What is one thing I noticed when I was in green that lets me know I'm in green? And one thing that I noticed that lets me know I'm in yellow, and that it's time to take a pause and consider what I should do next and how I should do it. And for those who won't join the meetups, maybe this centering practice can help. 2 minutes, bringing you into a moment of pause and rest. Thank you, everyone. You can open your eyes if you haven't already. Thanks for going along.
Thank you, Kim. And this was a great way to end the session. But before we go, we really wanted to do like a recap on what are the next steps of the program. So as we said at the beginning, and you probably are seeing my screen right now, the part where we get to practice this over and over the next month, it's the meetups. We're going to meet twice a week. You can join it whenever you can, Tuesdays and Thursdays at different time zones to adapt to different countries. And in those 30-minute meetups, we're going to practice some of the exercises we did today. And some of you were asking, how can I get better at this? Well, through practice. And together our issues that are 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you haven't signed up for the meetups, you can sign up in the website, theselfinvestigation.com, and there's a sign up button there. You can also sign up to get help from a coach. It is available in the resources page, which is now available in our website. It would be Kim and her colleague who might be helping you if that's what you need. These two coaches will help you investigate yourself better in a private way. And we have actually 1 hour free coaching sessions with them, but there are limited spots available. So make sure to sign up through the resources page, which is actually one I want to mention is right now you'll see on the website resources. So the selfinvestigation.com resources, the webinar, the recording of the webinar will be up soon. We also have audio recordings of some of the practices that you did today. We also have a questionnaire for you to investigate yourself. And we also have links to other resources to further your research into yourself. And coming in September, we have a program in Spanish. So if you're a Spanish speaker, then just know that we'll be having something in Spanish in September. And with that, I think that we want to say thank you to all for staying with us throughout this hour and a half. And thank you also to our partners for believing in this initiative and for making it happen. I don't know if you have any last words, Kim, that you wanted to share.
Just thank you for coming and join us in the meetups. It's just half an hour. And some people were saying, what's self-compassion? Well, you know what? We're going to practice that together and many other things. So looking forward to seeing you there. And thank you for coming this afternoon.
And let's say goodbye to all of you that joined us through Facebook, and Stella, who's assisting us. Thank you, Stella, for helping us. You can stop the Facebook Live connection. And now that we're stopping the Facebook Live connection, if you want to say goodbye through voice, through video, don't worry. We'll stop the recording here and won't share that. But we'd love for you to say goodbye if you want through voice in your own language, or say thank you, or whatever comes to you. Just say it to say goodbye so that we hear each other from all these corners of the world we are. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Merci.
À la prochaine.
Shukran.
Fiquem bem. Fora Bolsonaro.
Quer dizer,
Vidas negras importam.
We're learning some Portuguese at the end, so thank you.
Yes, from São Paulo. Very nice to gather with you.
Thank you. See you all in the meetup on Thursday.
Okay, see you.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.
ciao. Thank you.